Oh, okay. Is 5:36. August 5th, 2024. Call the meeting to order. Planning and Zoning Commission, City of Rockport. Agenda item number 2. Actually, we're going to enter the public hearing now at 5:37. Agenda item number 2, conduct a public hearing to consider request to rezone the property located at 2202 FM 3036, also known as Lot 64A, 64B, and 64C, as shown on the Kokomo Phase 6 preliminary plat. That's a typo. And Lot 65, Block 1, Kokomo Phase 2, more accurately described on the attached Exhibit A, to R2, Single Family Dwelling District, currently zoned B1, Second General Business District. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Kokomo?
I need to make a comment on behalf. I'd be happy to.
If you would, please, sir, step up to the podium, give us your name and address, and this will be your opportunity to tell us what you're proposing, and then later on in the meeting we'll ask you questions.
You bet. Brett Bone. I live at 1112 South Water Street, Rockport, Texas. I'm here representing Kokomo subdivision. We are proposing to replat commercial properties to single family R2. Simple reason is we have a builder, the world's biggest builder, D.R. Horton, who's enjoying a pretty decent, successful run at building starter homes in our community, which our community has a pretty substantial need for. We have an approximately 80 more lots to deliver in phase 5. This is phase 6. We can deliver these lots faster to them than we can the balance of the lots which are in phase 5, which are currently platted. We have worked to sell those properties. I have personally worked to sell those commercial properties for 5 years now, and have had no success at it. Very simple reason, in my opinion, after 4 years in the residential community development, is it takes residences and homes to support commercial development. As demonstrated by our inability to sell those commercial properties that have been marketing, the density and the economics don't support at this point in time. And I've worked with developers out of Houston. We had the 5-acre corner under contract. They put it under contract to a group called Lasco, who has numerous relationships with national and international retailers, and they had planned to put other retail use on those corners. After they did their feasibility and closed, they consolidated just to buy the 2-acre hard corner, which is going to be a 7-Eleven, and they're planning to break ground very soon. So the fact that one of the nation's and Texas' largest retail developers couldn't get 1 or 2 more tenants to come in and take the property that they had contracted, and we went from 5 acres to 2 acres, further demonstrates that the commercial market, in my mind, is not there to, we would have loved to have sold those commercial reserves off, but there's just no demand for it at this point in time. What it will do is put about $40 million worth of homes on the ground, assuming everything would go as we plan, or hoping to go as planned. We plan to deliver lots first quarter of next year, at which point in time D.R. Horton would start construction on a different price point, a little lower price point than what they have in the balance of our project. So that's the purpose of the request, to change it from commercial to single family.
We'll call you back up. Thank you, sir. Agenda item number 3, conduct a public hearing to consider a request for a conditional use permit to allow the use of a park model RV as an office on property located at 2562 FM 3036, also known as A76 Joseph Hollis Survey, 2.131 acres, Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, more accurately described on the attached Exhibit A. Is there anyone here to speak for? If you would, please, ma'am, come up here to the podium, give us your name and address, and tell us a little bit about your project.
Sure. My name's Bertina Schreiber. My husband's not here today, but his name is David, and we own the property at 2562 FM 3036 in Rockport. Been there about 2.5 years. And we have my husband started a handyman business, which turned into sort of remodeling. He's a builder, and we relocated to Rockport from Austin, where he built for 22 years, and then moved down here, as I said, 2.5 years ago. And this is what I call a tiny house. We had a lot of them in Travis County and the area that I was from, Lakeway and Spicewood. And I don't know why it's called a park model, and why they want to call it an RV, because it's not on wheels, and you don't pull it behind your vehicle, behind a truck or anything. It's called a park model. And so it's in place. We had a slab poured for it, and it's tied down, and it's a pretty immaculate little house, and we're using it as an office. So when we went to get the permit for it, we were told we couldn't do that. We couldn't have that property. And I said, oh, issue then, because it's already in place, and we paid for it and had it trucked down from Oklahoma. It was built, in a different market than here. And so I met with Carrie. I don't know if y'all want this much background or not for tonight. You do?
Right.
Okay. So I met with Carrie, came up here. That was December of 23, and filled out the permit form and handed it in and had a check. And then she said, well, we're not going to take your check right now because we don't know quite yet what to do with you. So she reviewed it and said I needed to look at this and need to do a little further checking. And so she just handed me my check back. So then I got a phone call that said, no, I think in the office, when we came to see her here, she said that it could probably be used as an office. And so we thought, okay, well, that's good to know. That's good to hear. So we waited to hear a little bit more from her, and then she brought a building code officer out, and they walked the premises, and he looked at it and said, oh, it's tied down better than most I've seen. So that was another kind of plus, I thought, for him to say that. Anyway, then we were told shortly thereafter to get an engineer's report to show how the construction, what kind of construction and to what standard was it built. So we did that, paid $850 to Mr. McBee to write this engineering report, and then we had him submit it. And then I heard about a week later, after it was submitted, I got an email from Carrie Dietrich that said we needed to remove it from our property. And it just came from so far in left field, because I wasn't expecting that kind of an answer, because she had said it could be an office, and then they came out and looked at it, and then we got the engineer's report, and then we were told that we could keep it there. I got an email from Carrie that said we could keep it on our premises, but we couldn't use it. So we'd have to disconnect it from utilities. So about an $82,000 investment that I can't use if I have to disconnect it from utilities. So at that point, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. And, maybe I'm a little thick-headed and stubborn. So I called Matt Anderson, my city councilman, and he came over and saw it. And he said, I have to say, I agree with you that you should be able to have this. He said, because there are properties around you just across the street that have similar property. And I'm a commercial property, 2.13 acres, and zoned on the commercial map for the city of Rockport as a commercial property. So I don't know if this is necessary background or not, but I had a conversation on the phone with Judy Emerson, and she said, did you move into the house? And I said, yes, we live in the main house, yeah. And she said, well, then it's residential. And I said, well, ma'am, I have to disagree with you, because I've been a realtor for over 30 years, and I've never seen a property go from commercial to residential or residential to commercial just arbitrarily on somebody's saying that you moved into it, so it's residential. So that didn't make a lot of sense to me. So then I spoke with Matt about that, and he said he felt like there were similar properties to ours, and that it was, just didn't feel like it was right, that we couldn't enjoy our property and have what we needed when there were others in the area that could and did and would. So that's pretty much, we're up to speed, almost up to speed. After that, Matt Anderson called and spoke with Vanessa, city manager, and she called me, and I told her kind of the series of events, and she apologized for the way it was handled because there was a lot of confusion. So she said, I think what you need to do is maybe apply for a conditional use permit. And I said, okay. And then Carrie was kind enough to send me the form, and I filled that out and sent it in, and that pretty much brings us up to today. Well, let me go back and say one thing. Vanessa did tell me, I had a nice conversation with her on the phone, and she said that she was going to terminate the action by the city. So there had been something filed against us or against the property. And I said, I'm not sure I don't know how I need to respond. I said, I'm talking to you on the phone about what's going on, but that action's already been filed, and it says I only have 10 days to respond. And I said, I'm not sure how I'm gonna respond. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And she said, well, I'm gonna terminate that. She said, so just set that aside. You don't have to respond. Let's do this conditional use permit. So that is then what I followed up with, was filling out the form and bringing it up here, and I left a check, and then the next thing I saw was the letter that had gone out to the community regarding the application. So that's pretty much up to speed, I think. Y'all have any questions or anything?
We can't ask questions at this point. When we
Okay.
enter the regular meeting, I'm
Okay.
sure we will have questions for you, and we'll call you back up.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Close public hearing at 5:49. Go back into regular agenda. Agenda item number 4, deliberate and act on the approval of the special meeting minutes from July 29, 2024. If everybody's had a chance to read those, do we have any comments, changes, deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
We have a motion,
I'll second.
and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5, deliberate and act on a request to rezone the property located at 2202 FM 3036, also known as lots 64A, 64B, and 64C, as shown on the Kokomo Phase 6 preliminary plat, and Lot 65, Block 1, Kokomo Phase 2, more accurately described on the attached Exhibit A to R2 Single Family Dwelling District, currently Zone B1, Second General Business District. Questions
Okay,
for Mr.
so-
Bone?
I guess I need clarification, because you're talking about rezoning to R2, but on the request, it says to try their 50 by 115-foot lot model. So what exactly does that mean?
I didn't hear your question, I'm
What
sorry.
is the 50 by 15-foot lot model? That's what
It's-
the request
They're
said.
50 by 115-foot lots. I don't know what the word model, they're not, they're big foundation, slab-on-grade homes.
Okay, so it would be also.
Referring to the developer's model that he does for that side lot.
Okay, so those lots would be replatted into smaller lots of this size?
Into those lots.
I see, okay, okay.
For the record, would you state your name again so it's in
Brett Bone.
Yeah.
And live in Rockport, 1112 South Water Street, and,
Okay. Other questions? I have a question for staff.
Yes,
You're recommending deny?
yes, sir.
Is
It
it
is in
based solely
conflict
on?
with the,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's in conflict with the future land use map that shows it's, commercial is the best use for the property, which it's zoned now. And, going to residential in that area on the highway frontage wasn't what they intended in the future land use map. So I'm required to recommend denial.
I guess my thoughts are, if D.R. Horton is willing to do this, and I can only imagine that they're probably going to change the price point.
I was hoping there was something to do with attainable housing. Do you know if he had?
Yes, ma'am, the
Any
price point
indications?
would be a little bit less than what the current price points are on the other lots, simply because of the lot size. So it would meet a different market of single-family buyer. I don't
That's
want to
not-
call it an affordable home, because that insinuates subsidized. It's not subsidized, just be a,
That's not actually what I mean by attainable housing. Attainable housing is, they set the price point and they make a deal, do an agreement as a contract, something, that the price point for those homes won't change for X amount of time. That they'll maintain that price point, and that's generally in the 180 to 250 range for a certain amount of time. Do you know if he has any?
no, ma'am, that would be their
Okay.
business decision. So,
Yeah.
We're selling finished, our
Yeah, you're just the
proposal is
property
to
guy,
selling
yeah.
single-family
Yeah.
finished lots to the builder.
I have not had the opportunity to talk to Mr. D.R. Horton about it. And that's asking the developer to drop his price, and he won't make the money on it that he would make normally. So it's a big ask. But I've not had the opportunity to discuss it.
Okay, so one other clarification on the future land use map, because I see where the future land use map is showing commercial, but it's showing commercial all the way through that subdivision, but the plat is showing
On the front,
lots on fronting the bypass there, residential lots.
yes, it's showing commercial all the way down. The residential that's there now on the bypass was already platted, it was already set out, I think, when we did this.
Before we did
The
the future land
preliminary,
use
yeah.
map?
Yeah. And when they, yeah, it was platted before they did the, for residential.
Can I make a comment?
Please.
Regarding concept plans, which I understand, I've been involved in residential community development in 8 states for 40 years, and concept plans are just that.
Yeah.
They're a vision on what people think they see will happen and should be what would look like a logical and specific use. There is a lot of commercial property that has been zoned and not zoned and is in the concept plan or current zoning for commercial. None of it has sold, to my knowledge, on the bypass. It's not economically feasible. I think we had a large developer out of Houston who bought the 5-acre corner and was gonna put in other retail next to the hard corner, and it wasn't economically feasible. He couldn't get any of the other commercial people. Commercial development is driven by residential beds and heads, and any redevelopment of any downtown or projects that I've seen, and I can't lost count of how many concept plans I've done as a developer where I've rechanged or replatted or repurposed commercial to single family. Single family drives commercial, and you need the single family and the density for the economics to provide. I think that it's an opportunity for the city to put about $40 million in improved property, taxable property on their tax rolls versus commercial sitting and waiting for, we've been trying to market it for 5 years and we've had no takers. And, oh, by the way, there's an abundance of commercial property.
That was a lot, yeah.
And so I think it would be feasible to, for you to consider to allow for the proposed development and the continued success that Kokomo has enjoyed. We're fortunate to have D.R. Horton. They're the nation's largest builder. They've closed another 10 lots last week. They've continued to take down and build homes. They're building 20 at a time. It's not as desirable as they had originally wanted to, but this gives us an opportunity to keep them involved in the project, to keep their momentum going, and to keep them here in Rockport. I think there's a demand for the single-family home. I understand what the zoning issue or the concepts are, but I've seen those change throughout my life, and
Do we have anywhere here where?
Can you speak up, please, Kim?
I'm sorry, do we have anywhere here that, not seeing the calculations, how many lots, these 4 lots would end up being?
you bet. There's
Down.
An exhibit, should be an
Reduced
exhibit, it's
action.
42 lots.
42, okay, we have that.
Excuse me, 24 lots, I'm sorry. And it matches exactly what's to the south of us,
Yeah, that's the preliminary.
which was originally platted for, if you look at your zoning map, that was also commercial as well as it is all the way to Pearl Street.
I think he said
And
42.
so that was a change that was made too.
Is that where the $8 million is that where that $8 million figure's coming from? 42 lots?
I just figured 20 lots at 400,000, and by the time you average
Oh,
out
it's 20, okay.
24 lots,
It's 24
24
lots, I'm
homes, the
sorry.
average price would probably be 400,000. Probably start in the 300s, which we haven't been able to do because of the increase in interest rates since we started this project, which were at 2.9, and now they're 7%.
5,000 square foot lots, these are like 0 lot lots.
And again, the property to the south, contiguous on the bypass, was once shown as commercial as well. So we're not breaking precedent here. It's been done. And there is an abundance of commercial. Like I said, if you have the ability to get property to use, put tax base, increase your tax base, put residentials with a national builder.
How many phases are they working, or how many phases is D.R. Horton currently working on in Kokomo now?
We're through the first 3 phases and they're halfway through phase 4. We've got another 80 lots that they're gonna take down, that are contractually taken down.
Is that phase 6?
No, phase 4 was the last one that's had a
Okay.
final. They've still got phase 5 to go.
Phase 5 is the latter part, and the purpose to go to phase 6 and replat this is the ability to get the lots on the ground in the phase 5. We can get the lots on the ground in phase 6, which we're proposing the zone change for, probably by the first quarter of next year, where the balance of the property is requiring some more engineering and some nuances that has caused us some delays, and our ability to deliver lots to them is going to be a little bit tweaked, and I don't think we'll be able to meet that schedule. So this would allow them to stay on site, continue building, and keep their momentum. And I don't know if anybody knows, once you have a builder that's on the ground and has their crews building, for them to go off-site and then remobilize has a lot of impacts, including pricing on homes in a
How many
negative way.
lots, I mean, do you know how many homes are currently sold or under contract in Kokomo?
Oh, I don't have an update on that. They've taken down close to 100 lots already and built.
You know, they've completed phases 1 and 2. I think there's still a couple of lots in 3 they're building on.
Yeah.
But then phase 4, they're about halfway through this build. They're not completed, but they're in the process.
And the homes are selling though?
Oh, yeah, they're not selling at the rate that we had hoped that they would.
Sure.
But it was a different world when interest rates were 2.9%.
I heard they're going down.
Yeah, they are. And fortunately, D.R. Horton, that's the wonderful thing about having a D.R. Horton, is they have their own mortgage company. They're able
So
to
they-
provide 4.5% rates, which are very competitive. And so, you know, our request is I'm all about responsible development. Been working with some of the people in this room for decades, and so
Long time.
my concern is to make sure things are done right, you know, and stand behind. I think that this is the right decision and the right repurpose. I think it's a better use than putting apartments, if you would. Single family would generate a lot more tax base for the community. That's probably the best. The highest and best use for a property is typically whatever, you know, you have a willing and capable buyer to do. We've got the world's largest builder ready to buy these lots and build 24 homes. Excuse me, I misstated earlier. I said 40. It's 24 lots, and so.
I thought it was more than that. But, you know.
Well, we started the engineering. The detention pond will probably determine within 1 or 2 lots. It is 44 lots.
44, right? Yeah. It was 40-something.
It is,
Yeah, there's 20 on each side. I have my numbers.
Now, will the drainage for these be taken in by the pond they're creating for the phase 1 over here, or will that be included in the pond?
We have the plan the engineering right now is the engineering has started is to put in a detention pond to help to address the drainage that would be necessary.
Well, they might want to look, because they're putting in one in the other commercial.
We put that in, we built that for
Okay.
them, but we've just allocated that area in the event, being responsible developers, that if there is a requirement for additional detention and retainage, we've got that allocated. The engineers, through their calculations, will tell us if it's needed. If it's not, hopefully it won't be, and we can turn it into 2 more lots, because it's just, it'd be land that'd be used for detention, which is
Okay.
a good purpose, so
The only thing I would mention is, remember that the future land use map was upgraded when we did the comprehensive plan. And we had pretty extensive conversation about future development within the city of Rockport and everything. And that's why you're here. It's up to y'all to determine whether or not you agree with the developer's request to go against the future land use map and what the vision was laid out for the city. But that is the responsibility of the Planning and Zoning Commission when people come in with these requests. And just, also remember, you know, what you do tonight sets a precedent for the future. If folks come in and they want to look at it, and again, each case is to be judged.
Yeah, you have to
individually,
judge each one
You know, and when someone comes in with a request, you can look at it, and if you agree that, you know, this would be a good thing for the city, and that it would put homes on the tax rolls and things like that, and that it is something that is a positive, you can make that recommendation, and it will go forward.
would you agree that if we were turning this around 180 degrees and asking to move from an R2 to B1, that the conversation would be
Right.
a
Be a
whole
lot
lot
different.
different,
A whole
right?
lot different.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
I mean,
of the highway
that's my
frontage.
take on it.
Right, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Again, you know, consider the location, the highway frontage. That's when you see that red, it's all along our bypass corridors, 3036, FM 2165. You know, those are the business corridors that we look at. You know, business 35, and you know, there's absolutely nothing that that is etched in stone. The future land use map is just that. It's a recommendation for
recommendation.
business corridors within our community. So y'all can talk amongst yourselves, see what you think, and come to a decision.
Thoughts?
Starter homes, tax base. Those are what we have to consider.
Rocky, you're thinking real hard.
Say it again.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, I mean, I know I'm not on any of those boards on the future land permit. But from what I know in construction and building, he did say something that is true. I think the way it sits, it's gonna be a long time. It's been a long time for commercial to come to that area. But if you bring more residential, commercial will come.
That's right.
You'll get the stores to cater to the residential, and so we can bring in, more tax base and business that way.
Yeah, if you save that lot, maybe we could get a Denny's or an Applebee's or something.
And I think,
Chick-fil-A.
yeah, well, we're talking to them all, honestly,
I know.
and until, just, elaborating here, until we see one of the bigger boxers, which is inevitable, but I don't think it's gonna be but another 10 to 15 years before they move out to the bypass, until they get the density of the population. When they do their studies, they do circles, they do 1, 3, 5, and 10-mile circles to see where their feasibility is in development. And right now, the bypass doesn't have the density to support, but inevitably, a H-E-B or Walmart will be relocating out on the bypass someplace, and there's plenty of land for that. And once that starts, that's when all the other smaller,
The marketing to try to get those commercial properties sold, was there work done with our local EDC?
oh, yeah.
To
No,
try,
I helped form the EDC. I was on one of the
and they worked on
organizing
it?
signers of them. I work very close with the EDC, yes. And I've got 40 years of commercial and residential community development. And, we, again, had incorporated a company called Lasco out of Houston, who does major retail developments and has all of the relationships with all of the major retailers. And they couldn't get anybody to commit other than 7-Eleven, which is who we sold the corner to. They originally contracted to take 5 acres, thinking that they could put some retail next to it, some additional retail, but it's not feasible. And we still have some commercial on 3036 on the other side, so it's not like we don't have the ability to accommodate commercial. And then again, the amount of commercial property that's up and down the bypass is sufficient for, and I will state again that I've worked on developing comprehensive plans, and plans are breathable documents, and I think it's important that, when you have an opportunity to increase your tax base, provide some homes at a price point that we don't have. I personally have worked on that for 20 years to get a D.R. Horton or a production builder in here, and finally we have them. And so I'd love to see them continue with their momentum. As Carrie knows, we've got another property they're slated to move toward, which could be another 300 to 400 to 500 homes that are, I don't want to use the word affordable, but because it insinuates subsidized home, but it's a beginner, starter homes. And the likes of D.R. Horton, they have the ability to build them at a price point and be able to deliver them at a price point where first-time home buyers, I think everybody here that's been here for a while knows that we've wanted this type of a project. I was proud to bring them here and make this happen and facilitate this deal. So I'd love to see them continue their momentum. I don't think that there's a fire or safety issue with this relationship to the bypass.
No.
You can look at every major metropolitan area in the United States and see homes a lot closer to the highway at 75 and 80 mile an hour highways versus it's 55 or 40 there, 45 or 55. So.
Also, when they do the plat, we require that they do a 2-foot no access easement all across the frontage so that they can't put individual driveways.
That's
to the
correct.
bypass.
He's gonna have the traffic plan, or he's gonna use the existing entrance and exits.
We have the existing curb cut in place, that's correct. We're not introducing any new curb cuts. There's the most north curb cut is the curb cut, and then the one that's to the south of that will be the south boundary of the lots that we're proposing to put into this commercial piece.
I could have sworn we had that plat.
I have it here. Sorry.
The lots, I didn't have it to include, but, yeah, there's existing drives, there won't be any new ones. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I have it somewhere.
Would y'all like to see it?
Yeah.
And this all be predicated on drainage, I mean,
Well, any development,
All
they
of
have
that
to
would
do
have to-
engineered drainage.
They'll come back with an engineered
Oh, yeah.
drainage plan for this phase.
Yeah.
You have the original concept, that shows what it is.
Yeah, I put it as part of the packet, the preliminary.
I have a motion if nobody else does.
Did you say there was a motion? I didn't hear. it.
Well, I do if nobody else
Oh,
does.
okay.
I'm sorry, I missed what you
I
said.
have a motion if no one else wants to make a motion, I would.
I'll make the motion to allow them to rezone that.
To approve, to recommend the council to approve. Okay. I didn't-
You're gonna need, he needs to read off the entire,
recommend
agenda item,
approval
right?
of the-
you need to read the entire
You can
agenda
just say
item
item number 5 as presented.
as, yeah.
Okay. Number 5, deliberate and act on a request to rezone the property located at 2202 FM 3036, also known as lots 64A, 64B, 64, and 64C, as shown on the Kokomo PH6 preliminary plat, and lot 65, block 1, Kokomo PH2, more accurately described in the attached Exhibit A to R2, currently Zone B1. Does that suffice?
Yes, sir.
And that's a recommendation only.
Yes, you recommend to council.
Do we need,
You have a
do
second?
we need to, oh, that's just a motion. Anybody want to make a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Rocky makes a second. Do we need to do a,
No.
just, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all very much.
We'll be at the council meeting next Tuesday, yes. Yes.
Don't forget your phone.
Agenda item number 6, deliberate and act on a request for a conditional use permit to allow the use of a park model RV as an office on property located at 2562 FM 3036, also known as A76 Joseph Hollis Survey, 2.131 acres, Rockport, Aransas County, Texas, more accurately described in the attached Exhibit A. Ma'am, if you would, please step up here. I'm sure there's some questions. And if you would, again, please state your name and address.
Yes, Bertina Schreiber, 2562 FM 3036, Rockport. Apparently, I'm just across the street from where those lots are gonna be rezoned. Right.
So to clarify, as you can see, staff has recommended denial. And it saddens me. I mean, they did a really nice job setting this up and it looks beautiful, but it is an RV. And she's zone B1. She could put a little office on her property, for her staff. It just, I'm concerned that if we start approving RVs as uses as offices and things, it's gonna start a trend that we don't wanna see. And like, again, it saddens me, because they did a very nice job. It looks lovely.
I should have brought pictures, because when Carrie refers to it as an RV, it's tied down. It looks like a house.
It's a park model.
It has
We've seen
banding
those.
across the bottom, and its air conditioner is I have two, gone completely blank, mini splits, and they're on the outside of the unit, so there's no way you could haul this down the road on wheels as it is now. It's set up, it is a building that's tied down permanently.
So this is.
Has a metal roof, high pitched like this. It's adorable. It's the cutest thing you've ever seen.
But this is an interesting conundrum, because I drove by, looked at it. It looks like a garage, or, I
Right.
mean, it's
Cute little
very
house.
well done.
Yeah, they did a nice
And
job.
just, it's set back far enough from the road, you're on big enough acreage that it's barely visible. I mean, you have to look for it to see it. It's not an eyesore.
Right, we're
Right.
fenced.
So I got to looking through our codes, looking through options, which, I mean, I know it sounds like we've been through all the options, because accessory use building, unfortunately, it looks like the way our codes are written, it doesn't allow for that. So the only option is a conditional use permit. The good thing is a conditional use permit, if it ceases to be used as an office, the conditional use permit goes away and another request has to be made for something different.
Okay.
So I am inclined to support this. This is an exception. This is an unusual exception that unfortunately, maybe our codes need to be looked at, because this is, you know, I mean.
Well, my hope was that we could get a variance, because the market I came from, actually Lakeway, Texas, was very much like Rockport when I first moved there. There were 8,300 people. It was 25 years ago now. I grew up in Corpus Christi, so, you know, this is my old stomping grounds, and I just never dreamed that I would have kind of an issue, because Lakeway is a tough little town. And when we first got there, we had to ask for variances for varying reasons, not just for building, because my husband was a builder, but I represented clients that had issues, and we would go to, and we never knew. We would go to ZAPCO meetings, and we never knew what we were going to find, if we were going to find favor or not. So it's a, you know, it's a toss-up. It's a crapshoot, if you will.
Well, and technically, I mean, I understand from the definition of a park model is, and we've been through this with our RV ordinances and everything.
Right.
It's classified as an RV,
Right,
but it doesn't look like an RV.
right. It doesn't
Question
look
in
like it.
regards to that, and you've
Yeah.
been through this, and I
Yeah.
haven't, so, but I do know about RVs, I mean, if it has a VIN number, or serial number, it's an RV. So
Well, my
it came
other
in on
concern,
road.
the biggest concern, is it can't be windstorm certified. It can't get a WPI 8 on it for it to be a permanent structure.
It is insured right now.
Oh, yeah.
Does it have windstorm insurance on it?
It does not. I'm insured through my homestead carrier, Allstate, so they
It can
cover
have
our
property
outbuildings.
Insurance, it just can't do windstorm.
Yeah. That was my next question, if it could be declassified, but then you would, kind of like we do on affordable buildings, but those are windstorm, yeah, they're.
Well, it's not built to the building code, so it'd be hard to,
Yeah, but those are built, like when we put them in, they're built to windstorm, they have to be a
Right.
hundred or whatever.
Oh,
miles
yeah.
an hour, so.
it's a conundrum.
The part that bothers me is just down the street, there's a home that's on 3 acres, and I don't want to throw anyone else under the bus, that's not my motive here, but just down the street, there's a property that I found in the MLS. In the notes, it said it was operating a daycare center in a separate building that was on the property with the house, and it was small, probably,
But that's
ours is under
allowed by
400
code.
feet, so it was probably under 400 feet.
Yeah, that's allowed by code, it's one of the, home, what are they called? Home occupations or something, home-based businesses, that's allowed.
And the fact that we're a commercial property, I felt like
And
that
they're
was
zoned
certainly
commercial.
in our favor, because,
They are, but I'd like to clear something up with you. The reason I told you it was residential is because when you operate it as using it as a residential, you must follow those residential guidelines.
Those are the codes that you have to follow.
Even in a B1, if you have a home and use it for your residence, you have to follow the R1 zoning district guidelines.
Right, that's correct.
How zoning is working.
Is your husband not operating this as a business though?
yes, he has a company called Hug Your Home Services, and we have no trucks or no, signage or anything like that, just his work truck and tool trailer and that kind of thing. So we do have a tool trailer. on
So
the property.
conditional use permit, if for some reason, 3 years down the road, same owner decided to make it a guest house,
You have to come back
cut
and ask
goes
for
away,
another-
right?
You'd have to ask for another
Mhm.
cut. It could only
That's
be
my
used for the
understanding.
Yes.
office, if that's what you're getting. But again, I hesitate doing that because then you're going to have others that want to use their RVs as their offices or their,
I will tell you from code enforcement standard, that's what we are concerned with, is that we
That's
will
the
have
big
more
concern.
people wanting to do cups for the same thing. And I understand they're allowed and I understand your concern, but from code enforcement, when we're trying to enforce those codes, it makes it very difficult
Yeah.
to do. Especially when she had sent us the paperwork from the manufacturer that stated it was an RV, recreational vehicle / park model.
Yeah.
Plus her.
I wish they wouldn't do
the
that.
windstorm engineer also classified it as park model / recreational vehicle. So that's where, from code enforcement, we are concerned with that.
I would invite you all to come out and see it, because it's not anything like an RV. I know it's classified that way, and you're referring to it that way.
Well, it's
But if
beautiful,
you see it,
the
it
way
is
they set it
not.
up.
It's painted the same color as our home. It's
still an
made out of
RV.
siding. It has a metal roof. It has a little front porch that looks at a pond. And it has a little staircase that goes to the door. There's
Yeah.
no way you're gonna haul this behind a truck.
I've seen it, actually, the first case I started was for work building a structure without a permit, because it was over the required, 200 square feet that is required in a residence. And then we discovered,
And
she
that's how,
said.
yeah, because
or
it didn't look like an RV.
It
when
didn't
she
look
was
like
there.
it at all. So that was my first case on it, and then that was in December. So I believe that in March, once she got with Carrie and all, and said it was basically a park model, that's when I switched gears, as a code enforcement officer. And then I addressed the RV portion of it. And then she sent us the documentation and all, so that's where we are. I have no doubt it looks beautiful. That is not, I mean,
We feel
not
like
an
we
issue.
are.
what matters is that how we try to enforce things. And, I understand the cup is totally y'all's decision, not mine, not ours, but I wanna give you some details as to what we do experience when we're out in the field. And my truth.
So Mike, does this have any similarity to the coffee shop down,
Downtown,
remember all that debacle?
yeah. Similar,
Now, that never
yeah.
happened, but that was because
Same thing.
they chose not to.
Correct. And, again, quite a conundrum, it's a shame that it got put there before we could go through this process to figure out whether it was allowed or not. The issue is, if you approve it, you're setting a precedence. People can come in and say, well, you approved that one right over there, why can't I do it? And it puts code enforcement behind the 8 ball for them trying to go out and enforce. But, I completely understand the situation. It has nothing to do, like she said, it's a beautiful little building. If I had a magic wand to wave, we'd wave the magic wand and everybody going about their business. But we've got to look at, what we're doing and what we're setting up for the future. If you're comfortable approving the cup, then you approve the cup and we'll move forward. But please remember, it does set up issues as other people come in. The worst thing that happens for us is when someone comes in, they want to do something, and we get it all the time. Well, there's one just like it right over here. And a lot of times we say, well, that one was before they were annexed into the city and things like that. But if it's one that we approved and gave them special circumstance permission, if you will, then it's hard to defend a request from someone else to want to do the same kind of thing. But it's your choice.
I have one other thing to say, and it may or may not even have any bearing on this hearing today, but the people we bought this from assured us that the reason they didn't sell these park models here that were manufactured here is because they weren't windstorm rated. And these are from Oklahoma, where the wind blows I lived in Oklahoma for 14 years, so I know what I'm talking about when I say this. The wind blows there 24/7, anywhere from 50 to 100 miles an hour, all the time. So I thought, when they said that these were built in a windy climate and they were windstorm rated, that they would be the best product for here. I took them at face value. So then when I see the specs and all the materials that I did then contact the people in Medill, Oklahoma that built it and ask them to send me the specs, because I didn't have any of that. I just had my contract and, you know, the title to it. And it is titled in my name. So I asked for that, and that's when I reproduced that for the city. So I was as surprised as anyone could be, because we'd been told one thing, and then, you know, we find out it's something else. But
Has anybody investigated if there is any engineering that could be done?
Yes, that's what, well, I asked Martina if she could get an engineer to give it a certification, you know, to do the windstorm, then was the biggest issue.
And he
they-
acted
they
like it
will
was no
not.
problem. When we contacted him, Mr. McBee acted like it was no problem. He thought it was just fine. And then the report comes through, and I was shocked. Again, I feel like I've been beat up every direction. Every time I turn around, I get slapped in the
Yeah,
other
what
direction.
he gave her was a tie-down report,
Yeah, he gave her a title.
not a. 'cause
Well,
it-
I
'cause it
should have gotten a
can't
better
beat
report, because I
windstorm.
paid $850 for it, and it did us absolutely no good. So at every turn, I keep
wrong business.
running into a wall. And yet I see similar properties around, and when you say you're gonna have to defend your position to someone else that is in Rockport, okay, maybe, but not in an identical situation, because we're 2.13 acres. We're not a city lot. We're zoned commercial, even though we live in the house. You can't just take someone off a commercial zoning map because you live in the house. And I just feel like we're a unique property. We're right across the street from where they're taking those commercial lots and turning them into residential to build future homes. So there's some unique properties on that street. Just down the street from us, Dr. Bruce's house is a 20-acre tract, and right next to him, there's a huge bank of boat and storage buildings. So, you know, that part of Broadway is different. Right across the street, you've got Spanish Woods, and it's a complete subdivision. We are one tract sitting by ourselves. We have no neighbor on either side of us. So we're impacting, that I can tell, we're impacting no one by having that building there.
Karen, this is similar to what we're going through with the Main Street thing, because
No, not really.
park models are,
So you talking about the Main Street restrooms?
That's
No,
a-
that's modular. That's not-
Modulars are, yeah,
Modulars are allowed,
they're allowed, they're different. They're built to code,
they're built to
But
code.
they're
both.
built to codes.
Well, I will say one more thing, since my husband is what I consider a master builder. If there's a way to make this conducive to permitting, if there's something we need to do, it's tied down better than probably any park model in this town, because we had it done very professionally. And as I say, we have insurance right now on it, along with our homeowners, and we're responsible property owners. We take good care of our property. And if someone was worried about if there was a storm, what would happen with this little house, I can assure you that we do things immediately. We went through this snowmageddon in Austin, and our house was, you know, immediately we drive down our driveway and we open up the garage. We're moving stuff back into our home during the snow, and we open up the garage and there's a waterfall. So before the day was over, my husband had already ripped out all the sheetrock. We found termites we didn't know were there, and our house was under contract.
Well, that brings up another point.
We
In the event of a
immediately-
storm, the tires and axles are gone, it could not be moved. That was my concern about windstorm certification.
Well,
So
there's
the-
things that can be done. I think the problem is the certification. I mean, you can go put 12 by 12s on all four corners, and that's not
They
going
will
to.
not certify
But
it
it's
because of
not-
the structure,
The certification is the
Right.
problem.
right?
Because no matter what, it had to be between the engineer and your insurance company, I guess, to get it windstorm certified.
Now, unlike the other, I will say this, unlike other RVs sitting around that we tell them, you gotta get it out of here, this is tied down. It's not like the ones that got blown over like dominoes during Harvey.
But doesn't TDLR certify these just like
No,
a modular?
no, TDLR has nothing to do with it.
TDI,
These are different.
TDI.
Texas
No,
Department of
TDLR,
Insurance.
talking about
Well,
Texas.
you're talking about the, industrial code, that's what that is. When TDLR gets involved, it's because they built under the industrialized code, like
So
HEB's
TDLR
buildings.
does not do
No.
RVs?
No,
Okay. I'm sorry.
sorry.
We are on the agenda.
Even if it was a shed, they build them, but it's, RVs are built completely different.
Completely different, yeah. Originally, we thought it was the little tiny home sheds, and that's why we were trying to help her get it certified and stuff, and
Yeah, that's why.
it didn't play
What's
out
the
that
square
way.
footage of it?
Mhm.
Do you know what that is?
They're always just under 400, so they
That's
can be
right.
called apart models, so
Right.
it's $399, I believe.
Because an RV, I believe, and I could be wrong as to what can be towed on the road, I believe has to be 400 or less.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken. So that's why they're classified as that. And like Carrie said, the wheels, what did you say about?
The wheels and axles are gone.
In Rockport, for those RVs that are stored on people's properties, they have to be roadworthy to be able to be pulled out.
Road ready.
Not that they ready, correct. So those that are stored, we try to make sure that their tires and wheels are correct, that they have current license, everything is ready to go in the event that they need to be.
Now, let me ask a stupid question. If they put it back to roadworthy, wheels back on and everything, can they keep it there on the property? Can they help us out?
They could only store it. They
Can only
couldn't
store
use
it, you
it,
can't work out of it.
so it doesn't really help her.
How are you gonna permit it?
Well, we're not. If you give her a conditional use permit, then that's what it would be permitted under.
It's currently not permitted.
It's not permitted.
But if we granted a conditional use permit,
There is no permit that I can give her for an RV.
so
If
there's just no
the-
permit?
No, it would just be the conditional use permit would be a
Oh,
permit.
that's in lieu of a,
Right.
okay.
My understanding is that we're on the agenda for the city council meeting next
Yes.
Thursday on the 13th.
Yeah, well, the P and Z just recommends. They'll
Okay.
make a recommendation to council, but council's the
Okay.
one who actually decides.
Okay,
So,
I'm just trying to understand the process.
yeah, it's a process.
Well, I think this is a unique situation, and again, I'm inclined to support it. So if there's no more discussion, I would make a motion to approve. I'm sorry, I'm
can't hear
inclined
you.
to support it, because this is a unique situation.
I agree with you.
And so I would make a motion to approve
I'll
the
second
request for
that
the conditional use.
Approve number 6 as presented?
Yes.
Okay. It's easier than spouting all that out.
Kim makes motion, Rick seconds. Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Unanimous.
Carries.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
So
Thank
the
you.
council next
We'll go
Tuesday.
through the same process next
Yeah.
Tuesday with the city council.
No, Tuesday. Yeah.
Next Tuesday at 6:30.
Yeah, and you'll want to give your presentation again. Okay.
Motion adjourned, right?
Before we adjourn, I'll remind you that we are to hold our first, oh gosh, what is it called? The Impact Fee Committee meeting on Monday, the 12th. And Friesen Nichols will come and have a presentation for you. So,
And we're all invited, is that
be
correct?
there or be square.
At the same time? I just
Yes,
want to
sir.
say to code enforcement that, this one was difficult, because I understand what you go through, I see it every day, I've been on the other side of it, of code enforcement, and I know the job you all do, and it's very much appreciated, and
It makes it hard.
certainly don't want to do anything to make your job harder, it's hard enough as it is, but
Yeah, appreciate it.
Motion to
Agenda
adjourn.
item number 7, motion to adjourn at 18, or at 6:36. Motion to adjourn.
Tom seconded.
Tom second.
I saw you, Tom.
I was trying to.
We're adjourned at 6:37. Thank you.